Assalamu alaikum everyone. I welcome you all to the third extension of the Black Hole Debate. I'm Nisha Manahil, your host and moderator for today's session, and I would like to give you all a warm welcome for coming. Uh, we're, we're here with our judges, Dr. Nair and Dr. Nazir, who will be your judges for both the days, and we're also here with our esteemed guest, Dr. Pervez Hoodboy. Our first round is on the topic of privatizing space. Who should own the moon and stars? We will begin this topic shortly. I would like to call the participants on stage. First of all is Maniha Saifullah. Then we have Asim Rashid. Abdullah Ibrahim. And Mohsin Rashid. You all will be allotted numbers 1 through 5. So you will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you will be referred by the judges and the moderator by these numbers. We will begin the debate right now. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Modern Age, Roots, DHA University, and BMI. One, two, three, four, and 5. The fifth participant is directly outside. You will begin with your opening speeches first. I'll start the timer. I'll tell you when the timer has started, and you'll each have 2 minutes. Make sure that there is no crosstalk and no talking over the other participant. In case that there is crosstalk, you will be disqualified. So we will start with Maniha. Your time starts now.
Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, today we are not debating, but today we are not debating ownership of land. We are debating ownership of eternity. I stand firmly against the privatization of space because the moon has no title deed, the stars carry no price tag. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, today we are not debating ownership of land. We are debating ownership of eternity. I stand firmly against the privatization of space because the moon has no title deed, the stars carry no price tag, and the universe was not made to be sold. The late Carl Sagan, legendary astrophysics, said, "We live on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The dust is Earth, the sunbeam is everything we have, and we dare to turn the universe into a shopping mall." They will tell you profit drives progress, but did NASA sell a single crater to launch Voyager 1, the spacecraft that's now 15 billion miles away from Earth? Did James Webb, our greatest cosmic telescope, carry a corporate logo? No, science took us there, not sales, curiosity, not capital. So, the moon's water or Mars soils, who stops them? Who stops them? Who owns the minerals of the Milky Way? Do we send a space army to enforce a space deed? The 1967 Outer Space Treaty says no nation may claim space, but today corporations act like flags with logos. And once space becomes real estate, the first war in orbit is not science fiction, it's inevitable. Look at Earth. We fought over borders, we divided land, we polluted oceans. Now we are exporting that same chaos to the cosmos. Stephen Hawking warned us, we are standing on the threshold of a brave new world. But we must tread carefully, and we must, because this is not just a debate about property, it's a debate about principles. We can explore without extracting, we can travel without taking. Space does not need an owner, it needs a guardian. So I ask you this, will we protect the stars for all humanity, or let the rich place its fences on the moon? I stand against privatization. Okay.
We'd like to start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable adjudicators, I'd like to start with a question. Have the injustices on Earth finished? That now we're going to replicate the exact same injustices in the solar system? No. On Earth, we blame all of this on income disparity. We say that, oh, this person is richer, this person is poorer. That's why they have differences in how they live their lives. What are we going to do when we go to the solar system? Are we going to say that, oh, these billionaires had the opportunity to go to the solar system first, and that's why they own everything, and that's why they're free to exploit all normal human beings? I'd like to clarify my stance by saying that space is not a commodity. It is not a product to be sold, owned, or divided. It should be with global commons as suggested in the OST of 1967, which explicitly prohibits any form of national or private appropriation. However, still, under corporate billionaires and their influence, we're still being targeted. The solar system is going to be just owned by a few, and what we need to realize is that there needs to be a strong sense of accountability and strong mechanisms for accountability. Why is that so important? It is important so that everything that we face on Earth, all the injustices, all the wars, all the privatization and business of even basic necessities that are important to live life, all of those things are going to be replicated on space. For instance, the exploration of the moon, for instance. While there are articles such as the Moon Agreement of the 1984, it basically prohibits exploitation of lunar resources. But then again, what do we see? These countries and the billion is my time over? The bi- the billionaires and these superpowers in the names of Russia, United States, all of these countries go to the space, and what are they doing? They're exploiting it. No developing nations, no developing individuals or states, they have any right.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Respected audience, the world has truly become a fever dream. I mean, I had no idea before researching this topic that it's come to a point where Elon Musk, the owner of a private space company, SpaceX, is demanding for the US to leave the OST. Seriously, does he not realize that if the United States leaves the OSCE, they're basically writing a handmade letter to every single country saying that, okay, come to space and do all the colonization we did in the 1900s again. Come to space and have another nuclear arms race to space. Is that really what we want right now? Let's talk more about the OST. The OST was created at the height of the Cold War to avoid space becoming a battlefield. The fact that the world now is much more fragmented than it was in the Cold War, with US China tensions and Russia NATO tensions, I do not think that I don't believe that we can actually come to another OST if we dissolve this one now. That's why we stand against anything, any amendment, any de-ratification of the OST. Thank you. Moving on the question regarding the OST impeding humanity's progress. For this, we'd like to say one thing only. Greed is one of the 7 deadly sins and has led people to believe that our outer space is a profitable enterprise. No, it's not. It's our future, not another way for Elon Musk to earn another billion under the hidden excuse of humanity's progress. I want to bring your attention to the next issue, the space haves and have-nots. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Countries like Pakistan lack the funding or infrastructure to actually deploy full-scale missions into space. Whereas we have actual rich countries like the US, Russia, or China who actually have satellite Wi-Fi in space. And what do the poor countries have to do to get that satellite Wi-Fi? Pay the rich. The poor pay the rich for infrastructure. Thank you.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges, we believe that the space should not be privatized at all, and there should be no country, no private organization that should own the space. The first question states that Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, wants the US to quit the Outer Space Treaty and for his own benefit. And the Outer Space Treaty was made so no government, so no organization owns the space, because if if the OST is quitted, and there will be another space war, it will be another Cold War in space without gravity. We believe that the OST should not be quitted at all. Also, the second question states that how did countries in 1967 come together to sign the OST treaty? And it was basically when the Cold War was happening in 1967. It was when both the sides, the USSR and the USA, both believed that the space should not be armed because they feared the armament of space. And if the space is prioritized, every country will fight to own the moon. They will fight to own the stars, and there will be another war, and there will be another war. Also, there was another question that if the OST has violated communism, has violated capitalism in space. Yes, it has in some specific orders. For example, it has stopped countries and organizations from exploiting the moon, but it has allowed exploration in space, and we believe that exploration is important, but it should not be violated.
Firstly, we need to understand what the OST is. OST prevents ownership and by blocking large scale investment, right? But let's understand what quitting it could actually could actually do for us. Quitting it could could um, unlock massive funding and innovation, and we can profit from resource extraction and settlement. An idea: the 19th century U.S. Homestead Act incentivized these expansions, and similar laws could accelerate settlements. Private actors can work within these public-private frameworks, like NASA's Artemis Accords, to maintain peaceful uses and it. We need to understand that this is not 1967. It's not the Civil War, and this is a time for innovation. It's a time to expand. So instead, we should actually go forward and by quitting the OST. And yes, it could widen inequality by using billionaires like Elon Musk to expand on to solar properties like Mars. But we need to understand that it is also going to increase job opportunities and other resource extraction opportunities for these developing countries that are that are being put in this so-called inequality. So we should go forward and quit the OST, since it's a time for innovation and it's not 1967. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll begin with the first point. That was a reference to Elon Musk and the fact that as of now he's actively researching for a colony in space or space exploration basically. So I'd like to bring up the first point that SpaceX has reduced launch costs by 90%. Uh, for those who have disagreed with the notion of that billionaires will control the space allegedly, what are your thoughts on the fact that we are that far into technology that we are having reusable rockets and we can save resources rather than wasting them on one-time projects like the shuttle or the Falcon? Number
All right. Am I audible? So, as far as the question about the launch costs being decreased and about Elon Musk and other billionaires making it easier to explore the space and making it more affordable and accessible, we need to understand that it is not just for our gain, right? We're not really gaining anything from it because it is something that, again, those billionaires are doing it for themselves. They know that they're going to be the first ones to go to space. They're going to be the first ones to launch activities and colonies on Mars and Moon, and then they're going to profit off of it. So it's not exactly anything that they're doing for individuals. It's just what they're doing for their own private interest. And as far as the launch costs going down is concerned, we should also consider the fact that none of it is helping developing countries like Pakistan or, for instance, Bangladesh. These countries are still not going to be able to explore space. Why? Because it's just a game for the few wealthy individuals.
Firstly, I'd like to add that billionaires like Elon Musk, they don't really have any benefit from going out on outer space and settling on planets like Mars when they have everything already settled in Earth. So what we need to understand is the fact that it's actually opening up more opportunities for developing countries in the first place. So if we talk about benefits, these billionaires, sure, they'll be obviously increasing their total income, but we need to understand the amount of opportunities for developing countries like Pakistan that can actually initiate a outer space program and initiate so many new jobs, so many new studies, and let's not forget the amount of resource extraction that takes place on these planets like Mars, which will directly impact the economies of these developing countries and even underdeveloped countries. So these billionaires, they're not just profiting from it, they're actually innovating and they're actually providing opportunities for these other countries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First of all, we'd like to start by pointing out the absolute hypocrisy of Elon Musk, right? We have Elon Musk decreasing launch cost, right? We have decreased launch costs, but at the same time, we have Elon Musk having a problem with the clause of the OST, which states that you cannot own a land, right? He's basically trying to own, plots in Mars, plots in on the moon, right? And then on the other side, he's decreasing rocket launch cost, right? It's all propaganda. He's trying to convince us that he wants it to be like a colony in space on Mars for our own benefit, whereas he's the one benefiting the most off of it. Furthermore, I'd also like to discuss the fact pointed out by Team 5, right? When was the last time that Elon Musk actually helped Pakistan or actually helped a poor country go into space to launch a space program, right? When has Elon Musk helped the poor? When has Elon Musk developed settlements for refugees? When has Elon Musk actually, fixed some kind of water issue or did something for us back home, right? He tried to create clean energy, electrical based vehicles. He tried to create Tesla, right? And what do we find? Tesla, the electricity created for Tesla, the actual powerhouse of Tesla, to power the Teslas, it has the same carbon emissions as a normal gas-powered vehicle would. He's done absolutely nothing, right? He's only done everything that he's actually done for himself. Thank you.
So, am I audible? The OST says no country can own the land in space, as the countries would fight over stars and moons. There would be a space land rush, right? There would be more tension between countries like China, Russia, or India. They may feel threatened or left out. Countries like Pakistan that don't even invest in space, right? They will lag behind, and as a result, there will be a brain gap. Skilled scientists move to space-faring nations, leaving the other with slower growth. That's it.
Firstly, I would like to ask the panel, if it's not a billionaire like Elon Musk that initiates these programs, who's it going to be? We need those billions to start these programs in the first place. And if these billionaires are offering incentives like 90% reduction in costs, then what's really bothering us to keep the thoughts that we had back in 1967 yet again? Because I'd like to remind this panel that, again, it's not 1967. This is not the Civil War. We're not fighting over land. It's first come, first take, because clearly there are no lands that have been taken in Mars. So if countries like Pakistan are moving forward to stopping such initiatives, then who from Pakistan is going to start these initiatives in Mars? It is going to be one of the billionaires who have the resources, like Tesla. And making claims that Tesla has the same emissions as these other gas car producers is pretty surprising, because it's not just the amount of emissions that are taking place during the development of such machinery, it's the amount of emissions that are taking place while these products are being used. So creating such initiatives in planets like Mars is actually going to benefit these developing countries. Again, it's not removing them from the picture. Sure, they don't have a program yet, but again, it's providing these opportunities. It's making an initiative to start these developing countries to actually like develop their outer space programs, and in return actually increase their GDPs and improve their trades and improve their overall economy. Thank you.
Adding to what speaker number 5 and speaker number 3 just said, firstly, it's actually a bit bizarre to say that a Tesla has the same carbon emissions as a gasoline vehicle. Moving on, answering the question by speaker number 5, the issue over here does not lie on the fact that, okay, Elon Musk is a billionaire and he's doing all of this to explore space and innovate new things. We don't have an issue with that. The only issue that we have is that in the past, whenever these so-called billionaires have thought about the global good, the global world, they have never actually ended up doing anything for the world. Let's talk about it. Right now, Elon Musk, for instance, is creating all of these, has this $1 trillion empire, right? What is it doing to benefit the people? All he did with his so-called wealth was manipulate the elections in the United States, for instance. And then moving on, we think that it's not that fair to just come over here and bash billionaires or bash rich, wealthy individuals. What we should do instead is possibly try to come to a solution, or possibly find some ways in which all of the countries that are not that active in space exploration programs, they should all come together. They should all find a way that even if it takes them more than other countries, other global leaders like the United States, Russia, China, they should still have a chance to explore the space. It should not be first come, first serve as initiated by speaker number 5, because if it is first come, first serve, then only 2 or 3 individuals or 1 or 2 states are going to have full control over the solar system, which we do not want. Also, as it's mentioned that it's not 1967 and it's not the time for the Cold War. Do I have time? The only thing that's different today is the fact that Soviet Union does not exist, and the United States of America is actually the only sole global power that could have possible possible interests in the solar system. And we need to realize that it's not safe for permission to complete sentence. It's not just one person that should have all the control. Thank you.
I would like to add on what number 5 has said, that the Elon Musk is doing a world a favor by decreasing the prices of the rockets by 90%. I believe that the Elon Musk is only decreasing the prices by 90% to plot and rule again. He's decreased the prices so there can be a larger colony on moon and more people can visit the moon, and then he'll name himself as the president of moon and have a insanely high tax for the people who are actually coming to the moon, and charge them, and if they don't pay the taxes, he's going to do something really bad, and he's going to basically plot and rule by decreasing the 90% of the 90% prices of the rockets. He's going to set up a large colony on Mars. He's going to set up a large colony of moon, and he's going to rename the moon to some another company like like Tesla or some. He's going to have a whole Tesla logo on moon. Thank you.
Moving on to the next point, we've established that as of now, half of you believe that this is propaganda, and the other half believe that this is a potential innovation. I would like to ask you now that what are the dangers potentially of removing the OST, especially in an era where politics is so ingrained in every nation and everyone is interlinked within one another that there is no interest for the people, it is mostly interest for the governments. So, how will removing the OST or going against the Artemis Accords affect the global population? Number three.
Exactly, right? How does removing the OST, re-ratifying the OST benefit human beings? How? When you have the OST, which prevents the militarization of space, it prevents the ownership of celestial bodies, of other worlds, of the moons, of the stars, right? How does de-ratifying the OST help us build a colony in space? How does de-ratifying the OST help us to not go extinct, right? Because the entire point of having a colony in space, in Mars, is so that we don't so that if we do go extinct in Earth, we can still carry on our race, our species on Mars, right? Could you please explain to me how completely removing the fact that the OST prevents the weaponization in space, how can that help individuals and not governments? It can help governments by having espionage missions in space. It can help governments by having laser beams, rail guns, and whatnot in space to spy on. Well, we could have China already having spy balloons. If they get to space, they're gonna breach the data, breach everything in Hong Kong, right? We know that's a possibility. We know that is going to happen. So please explain to me how de-ratifying the OST is going to help humanity, right? How is it going to help humanity? How is it not going to just give ultimate unmatched power to governments, right? Of superpowers especially. Thank you.
Firstly, we need to understand that when governments benefit, their people or their citizens also mostly benefit. Now, again, another thing that we need to understand is the fact that the space has a lot of resources like minerals, for instance. If the treaties are discarded and if we do not follow them, that's going to lead to a colonialism of a sort. When that happens, these minerals, all of these resources are going to be just in the hands of a few people. That's how the individuals are not going to benefit, and it's just going to be a few corporations. Secondly, another threat that, for instance, Elon Musk or these large global superpowers taking over space is the fact that there could be militarization. Militarization would happen because these states or these individuals would feel the need to control or to protect their assets in the space. Assets like, for instance, space stations, their residential development programs like Elon Musk suggests. When these things are going to be in the space, then that's going to lead to a need to protect that property. How are they going to protect that property? Through weapons. On Earth, we're already going through a lot of issues because of these very weapons. We have the nukes here. We have nuclear weapons on Earth. Are we going to have nuclear weapons in the solar system as well? Just because these individuals would feel the need to protect themselves and to protect their assets once it's breached? I don't think so. That's not exactly a viable solution. Thank you.
So the outer space treaty affirms that the moon and other celestial bodies are the province of all mankind, not assets for privatization, not territories for conquest. To violate the principle is to invite a future of interstellar inequality where the cosmos is colonized by the few while the many remains excluded. So the space is humanity shared heritage, not a commodity to be bought and sold. If the space is privatized, what about the people? What about the countries who can't even afford to launch a rocket? How will they go to space? There will be, those people will be treated unequal, and there will be exploitations in the space. powerful countries like America, they will powerful countries like America, they will rule over the space, and they will be and they will be unjust to the countries that are underdeveloping stages. Sorry.
I would like to question that how is one so assured that it's going to help the individuals when the OCT or the OST is completely revoked? How is it going to help the individuals, and how is it not going to how is it not going to have another war? If the OST is broken, all the countries will clash together to own the moon. All the countries are going to clash together to own the stars, and they're going basically to fight over the moon, and that's basically all that happens. There will be another Cold War without gravity. The the countries will the countries will fight each other to own the moon. The countries will fight each other to own the stars, and there will be no individual that will actually be helped, but there will be genocide, and there will be another war. Thank you.
Relying on propaganda when it comes to such innovation is the only stopper that actually stops us from innovating, right? I would like to ask the panel, if we don't stop the OST, how will we maintain a democracy in space? Let's say we don't stop the OST. A billionaire such like Elon Musk also goes to space, perhaps from a different country, also colonizes a part of Mars. How do we maintain assets in space when there's no protection? There's no weapons to protect those specific assets. And what this panel needs to understand is the fact that the same humans that live on Earth, that rely on such military assets, such weapons, are the same humans that are going to be living on Mars, on those colonies. There isn't going to be a Martian to protect those specific assets, and we'll need obviously certain laws according to the atmospheres, according to the geography of those certain planets. And we're not saying that if we stop the OST, we're not going to have new regulatory laws according to those specific celestial bodies. And what we also need to understand is the fact that propaganda like Mars, the moon will be named after Tesla, or there's going to be a war on moon, or someone's going to destroy a certain celestial body. If that was the case, I feel like Earth would have been destroyed a long, long time ago, considering the amount of nuclear wars, the amount of issues that have been caused due to governments, due to holding land. And from what we've understand so far, from how we've held land in on the Earth, is through borders, through different governments, is the fact that we do need laws, we do need weapons, and we do need protection for the people that are going to go and live there. And we need to understand that this isn't America, this isn't Russia, it's one billionaire that is going and colonizing, may I complete the sentence, and is going and colonizing under that name and no country.
We like to keep it brief. Understand the fact that the government benefiting does not mean that the population of that country benefits, right? It's always been the governments of a superpower versus the government of another superpower, right? It's never been the population of that superpower versus another population of the superpower. All the profit. Look, okay, let me ask you guys a question, right? Do you not think there isn't corruption in Pakistan? Does the government give all the assets to the population for their benefit? Does the government not take money for their own benefit, for their own petty wars, petty fights, petty skirmishes, right? We have India and Pakistan. They can do so much with the money. They can do so much with the money that they generate. But what do? They fight over petty border disputes. They don't have any kind of like a actual framework to decide what's going to happen in Kashmir, and it's always just, okay, we're gonna bomb them, they're gonna bomb us, we're gonna bomb them back, right? Why don't you actually engage in diplomatic talks to like settle this stuff, right? That's going a bit off topic, but I hope you get what I mean. Thank you.
that there should be a governance when it comes to how these rockets and how this exploration should be carried out. Do you believe that a global authority such as the United Nations should be put into effect to govern the moon and asteroids? Or do you have any other suggestions on how the governance or how the frameworks regarding the new treaty that should be established or can be established, how should that be carried out? Number two.
Um, Firstly, honorable adjudicators, we'd like to say that when we talk about these regulatory frameworks and authorities, laws and treaties, do we realize that on Earth for climate change there is actually a treaty that is the most ratified document in the entire world, which is the Paris Agreement. But then again, we need to understand the fact that the United States has pulled out of it. Why has the United States pulled out of it? Because it does not really serve its interest, its personal interest. Understand that nothing in this world is being done for the overall global interest, and we need to understand the fact that even if we sign these fancy treaties with fancy names, for example, a moon accountability framework or something, it's not exactly going to come into action. Why is it not going to come into action? Because when these countries, when these global superpowers are held accountable, they don't like it. Why don't they like it? Because then again, somebody is keeping a check on their actions. They do not consent to it. So how come we can propose any frameworks or solutions? As far as proposing new solutions is concerned, we could possibly just one thing that I believe is very important is the fact that there should be collaboration between these individuals and their respective governments. We should not let individuals go in the solar system and have full control. That's dangerous. We should have a total authoritative body, not the United Nations, because I personally think that the United Nations does not have enough power to exercise in the solar system. They cannot exactly stop if, for instance, a war happens in the solar system. That's why we need to form a new international regulatory body, a regulatory body that would keep a check on these countries, and there should be a continuous sense of cooperation between the government, for instance, the United States of America and Elon Musk, so that individuals cannot exercise full authority and control over the solar system. Thank you.
Considering that since 1945, when the UN was created, the amount of committees, the amount of frameworks, the amount of laws that have passed through the UN is evident that we do need such a body to maintain some sort of law, some sort of rights for the people that actually go and live there. And what we need to understand is whether it's the United Nations or the United Planets or whatever we come up with, it's practically the same exact thing, except with different, let's say, standards of power inside of the body. Obviously, there is no P5, there is no nuclear power when we are going to be talking about such planets. So a body that takes account for people like Elon Musk or any other such billionaire or program that go and colonize on these planets will need a body to take care of all of these problems, because we need to understand that when we say that that people from developing countries are gonna go get jobs there, are gonna go for mining or like resource hunting on these planets, we'll obviously need a lot of laws, such as sorting problems related to labor rights or environment rights, obviously according to the environment of that certain planet. So a body would be necessary, obviously with different structures from the UN, since it's a completely different environment, it's a completely different situation. So we like to say that such a body should be formed to take account for billionaires like Elon Musk or any colonizers in that case.
Could the point be repeated, please? The one that you just said. Yeah, the question. Alright, so basically, of course, we need a body to govern what's happening in space, right? be it the UN or, as number 5 has said, be it any kind of the United Moons or whatever, right? Whatever he said, we need a body to govern it, right? if we if the problem arises that no resolution is actually being implemented, right, because of the superpowers, because the superpowers don't like being held accountable, we have to understand that any kind of framework then is useless, right? Why have diplomatic talks if no superpower is going to ratify, if no superpower is going to actually stick by the rules, right? We need to have something that we can hold them accountable for, right? If every single superpower is rallying against every single small poor country, right? If we have superpowers benefiting from the space exploration, from the colonization program, right? And we have them using it for any kind of illegal activity, we need a body to actually keep a check on them. And what we can do to actually hold them accountable is that we can come together and, you know, well, there's a lot of things you can do to hold them accountable, right? You can have sanctions, right? You can raise your voice against them, right? You can have international forums, you can have social media even right now. You can have anything to do with just defaming them and actually, you know, bringing to light, bringing to attention the wrongs they have done, right? That's how the world works. If you're going to not listen to any rules, that's not anybody else's problem, that's your problem. You're going to face the consequences for that. Thank you.
I would like to add on what number 3 and number 5 have said. We also believe that there should be a body set up to govern the moon and not some individual. Because if anyone wants an individual to govern the whole moon, they're basically saying that one person can govern a whole planet better than 11 committees combined can. We believe that a committee like the UNESCO or another committee should be established that was or another committee should be established, like committee, some moon or space committee should be established to govern the moon. Govern the moon. We also believe that even if a organization wants to send a rocket to the space, they should ask for permission from that newly established body or UNESCO first, because there should also be security checkups before the rockets are going to the moon, because if without security, without any governance, a rocket is going to moon, there could be anything in that rocket, there could be weapons in that rocket, it could basically militarize the whole solar system, and the solar system will come to an end. Thank you.
Adding on to what speaker number 4 just said, we need to understand the fact that bodies such as the UNESCO, for instance, don't actually hold any real power. They have the authority to recommend things to, for instance, the General Assembly or the Security Council. What they cannot do is impose sanctions, for instance. Even if we have a newly established body, as suggested by speaker number 5 and speaker number 4, how do we know that it's actually going to help in keeping these superpowers accountable? Because we have the UNESCO, we have the Conference of Parties even. All of these committees are in existence. They debate on stuff, they use diplomatic channels. However, in the end, it's totally on the country and it's their jurisdiction if they want to follow the United Nations, for instance, UNESCO's or ECOSOC's decisions or not. Nobody can actually hold them liable. You can hold them liable in ICJ and ICC. However, what we have been seeing lately is that the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice, both of these have given decisions, have given arrest warrants even, but all of those have been refused. So it is important to have a new body separate from the United Nations, a body that would help individuals and their respective states come together and work together on possible solutions and possible accountability mechanisms. Now, understand, why is accountability so important? Accountability is important so that whatever is happening on Earth right now does not happen in the solar system. Accountability is important important so that there is an equal share of resources. An equal share of resources, like all of these treaties suggest. These treaties suggest that, okay, no country can exploit the resources of the solar system. But do we understand the fact that, okay, even if they do exploit the solar system, there is not exactly a proper way or a proper channel through which we can hold them accountable or stop them and say, hey, you cannot do this. Permission to complete sentence. And that's why accountability is important. Thank you.
I would like to add on what number two has said, that we never said that the UNESCO is governing the moon or it has power to govern the moon. We said that it should have the power to govern the moon and that it should be the committee to govern the solar system. Also, how is number two so sure that if the UN that comprises of more than 11 committees cannot govern the solar system and it will fail? How is number two so sure that a new body can actually govern the moon on itself? That we believe that the governance of the solar system should be first under the United Nations. Even not under UNESCO, it can be under some newly established committee. If that fails, we should work towards a newly established body that is not the UN, but only if the United Nations fail to do so. Thank you.
The panel needs to understand the constant failure of the United Nations, especially in their Security Council, when it comes to banning vetoes. Because number 4 keeps asking number 2 whether, or like how these 11 certain committees are not going to help to maintain these laws. The panel needs to understand the constant overpowering of such superpower nuclear countries that keep vetoing any decisions that fall outside of their own, let's say, advantage, right? So such a body that's foreign from the United Nations will obviously not have such vetoes or such overpowering, unfair advantages to these superpowers that are going to prevent such actions, such as from ECOSOC or any other committee in that case, to not actually take place. So this body, whatever we decide to call it, is obviously not going to have that failure that the United Nations has. And while we are innovating by entering outer space, we also need to take our bodies to, we also need to innovate the current bodies that have been developed. And a body that's been developed in 1945 that's constantly being overpowered by such superpowers, we need to learn from what we've done in the past and actually create a body that doesn't rely on such superpowers. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we completely agree with number 5, right? The failure of the UNSC, of the United Nations, to ban veto, right? We completely agree. How are we going to hold a country accountable if they can just veto the resolution, right? That's why we... Okay. That's why we do agree with the fact that there needs to be another body which does not have vetoes, right? Furthermore, we'd also like to argue on the point that if you hold a country accountable and they still decide to do whatever they want to do, that's still no one else's problem, right? When you have resolutions that are saying you can't do this, you can't do that, right? There's no way to like stop a country from doing that stuff, right? That's just how the world works. The best that we can do is actually defame the country, right? We can force a regime change. We can defame the government. So the next prime minister or president of that country knows that if you mess with us, if you mess with the OST, if you mess with this certain body, we're not going to let you get off the hook that easily. Thank you.
Firstly, I'm very apologetic to waste this esteemed panel's time to explain what we already explained. Understand that UNESCO and ECOSOC, what we meant by the fact that they have not done anything, they have actually done anything, adding to what speaker number 2 said. But It's just the fact that these bodies cannot even sanction a country properly because they have to take it to either the UN Security Council or the United Nations General Assembly. That's why it's imperative for a new council or a new body to be formed, a body that is independent from the inside politics of the United Nations. If you take something to sanction it, for instance, in the UNSC, these five P5 countries can easily veto it. It will never actually end up coming into action. And that's why we cannot just rely on independent committees like ECOSOC and UNESCO, since they do not hold any real power. They can only recommend stuff to SC and General Assembly. Thank you.
I would like to add on to this. If we do put into effect another committee or an organization that governs individuals and governments alike, how do you think that this same governance will not be manipulated by these same individuals that are in power, and how will this be established without any proper militarization or resources or a proper body to govern without any people? Because it's not possible to immediately bring 5 billion people onto another planet or to another colony. So how will this be put into place that you are in outer space? How will you govern these individuals when it comes to that, and how will you finance it? Number 2.
If there is a new independently formed body that overlooks the entire governance of the solar system, we need to understand the fact that all of the key players such as the United States, Russian Federation, People's Republic of China, the French Republic even, all of these countries that have been doing space exploration programs, they are going to fund this entire body by themselves, like it has been happening in the past. The World Health Organization, for instance, is formerly entirely funded by the United States of America. And other organizations are also mostly all the resolutions that they pass are funded by these countries. So we need to make sure that we know which countries are interested in space exploration, which countries are interested in getting those minerals, those resources out of the space, and then you hold them accountable. You say that, okay, fine, you want to do it. Firstly, you need to oblige over the fact that, okay, fine, you're going to be held accountable. Secondly, all the financial resources that are going to be needed for this entire body to govern is going to be facilitated and funded by these countries themselves. Why is this important? It is important so that these countries can not just think about themselves but about the global south as well. If they think about the global south, what is going to happen? They are going to have these funds and and they're going to basically create a pathway for the countries in global south like Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Nepal, all of these countries to also perhaps get into, not India, but like also for these countries to get into this entire space exploration program. Thank you.
We'd like to remind number 2 and the rest of the panel that the question's really about how this body is even coming into function when there's no militarization, there's no not really any way to actually like go and settle on these planets. And that's exactly where it brings me back to my first speech of actually quitting OST. Because if we don't quit OST, if we don't militarize outer space, what's the point of such a body to regulate such laws when there's nothing to begin with? And obviously, considering that we've had the United Nations since 1945, I feel like there have been multiple examples that we can work from. And obviously, one of the biggest is veto, of course, right? If there is no veto, committees such as ECOSOC would actually have the power, would actually have a fair chance of actually putting forward the decisions that they are planning to make. And again, all of that is useless unless we unless we quit OST and actually start the colonization, actually support Elon Musk. Because the panel needs to understand that if we are debating about a body, that does mean that you are in favor of billionaires such as Elon Musk. Because why would we be debating on a body in the first place if you don't want these billionaires to be colonizing such planets in the first place?
All right, I see two problems here, okay? There's funding. Let's just give you a really easy math equation, right? You have the total GPD of GDP, sorry, yeah, the total GDP of every single country combined, right? Then you have ratios. The United States has, let's say, 20% of the total GDP of the world, right? Then you have the United States. Then they're gonna fund 20% of the organization that we're gonna create, right? So in this way we have sort of a socialist economy, right? In space we're gonna have the top contenders for the largest GDP giving the most funding to every single country, and everybody from that organization is going to benefit from it, right? Furthermore, we see another issue, the militarization of outer space. Do you really want there to be laser beams and rockets and nuclear warheads in space? Do you really want that, right? Do you really think it's okay for USA to have, well, let's say, nukes in outer space? Do you not think that's a very big warning, a hazard for you, right? You're gonna be sitting in your home and one day you realize there's a nuclear warhead coming towards you at Mark 20, right? What are you gonna do then? Oh, I shouldn't have said that in that speech. Now it's actually coming into effect, right? Thank you.
The panel needs to understand that whether it's laser beams, whether it's some Star Wars shenanigans, regardless, if we are colonizing a place, whether it's on Earth, whether it's on Mars, let's bring you back 1,000 years back, right? Where a certain land is being colonized. How do you take power over that land? Whether it's laser beams, whether it's knives, whether it's punches, there are going to be fights over land. So why shouldn't we militarize and make it when we have over hundreds or like centuries of experience from a planet like Earth, where we understand how to maintain peace between countries with bodies like UN, when we have such an opportunity to settle in another planet, right? Where we can learn from the mistakes from our past, make a better body, make a better system for these countries to thrive. And obviously, there is gonna be certain warfare, because obviously no one's gonna be fair there, right? Without a body. And to regulate that for people, countries, perhaps that are violating such laws, there obviously needs to be some sort of military action against them. We can't just be like, oh, sorry, don't do this next time. There is no militarization in space. And what we also need to understand is the fact that whether we give 20% of the United States GDP or not, this way we'll obviously again have superpowers taking control over such planets. And when we talk about Elon Musk taking control over Mars, we need to understand that Donald Trump just recently threatened Elon Musk's plan to colonize Mars in the first place. So when Elon Musk is thinking of colonizing a planet, he's not doing it as the United States or China or Russia. He has his own resources, and it's obviously, may I continue? And it's obviously his own land and land.
With colonizing the space and the entire solar system, we need to understand the fact that, as mentioned by speaker number 5, we have been on Earth for a really long time, and we have witnessed all of these wars, warfare, and even today, why diplomatic talks and why these international regulations don't actually work is because there are weapons in the first place. If we demilitarize the entirety of the solar system, understand the fact that this way we would be able to have these diplomatic talks and these international regulations come into force before these weapons. If we do not allow weapons, then the only possible peace and conflict resolution method that these countries or these individuals would have in this space to protect themselves would be these two: diplomatic talks and international regulations. That this is why I would like to affirm the need and the importance of both of these things, because I think that warfare and militarizing the solar system would not exactly do much. The situation that we have today on the planet Earth, we would have a situation worse than that in the solar system in the coming years. Thank you.
All right, so we've sat here and discussed how we should compare the history of Earth with the now present of Mars that we're going to create, right? Do you understand the fact that all the wars that have happened on Earth have been due to the weapons that are existing with powers, superpowers, right? Do you really think that if you have USA with their troops in outer space and then you have, let's say, Iran with their troops in outer space, do you not think USA is going to completely overpower Iran? Do you not think there's going to be a war? There's going to be a actual, not even a world war, it's going to be a universe war, right? It's going to be absolutely detrimental. Next, we would like to kind of explain the principle of socialism, right? We believe everybody should benefit. We believe USA should give their part, not USA should fulfill their responsibility of being one of the biggest GDPs in the world by giving funding, right? They're not going to receive 20%. They're only going to give 20% of the funding, right? Then whatever is decided in that organization is going to be what's going to be put into effect. We're not saying give 20%, get 20%. That's absolutely not what socialism stands for. Thank you.
If we want to make a dog go the right way, it's obviously not going to go without a leash. And understanding human psychology, understanding how the earth has been moving on the past like centuries, right? We, let us give you an example. Let's say Elon Musk goes, settles and like colonizes an area, while another billionaire number two goes and settles, makes a colonization there. Let's say colonization number two has been violating labor laws, has been violating these developing countries, right? And Elon Musk's colonization says something against it, right? What is stopping civilization number two from actually stopping, right? There is no power, there is no hierarchy, there is no method of controlling these violations, right? So such a body would be useless to start with. Let's say we charge them, we fine them. What's to say that they're actually going to pay these fines? They're actually going to listen. There is no such method. And when we talk about countries, right, these are obviously independent billionaires. These are independent people that are colonizing these places. And it's obviously giving every country an equal chance to go and settle, to go and get jobs, get opportunities, get resources, right? And it's obviously going into civilizing that planet per se, right? And if we're going to be scared from making such moves, even after hundreds of years of experience, then clearly this panel is not ready for any innovation to start with. And if we're going to be going back to our points from our first speeches about actually not going to space, actually not militarizing space, then there is no point for a body. There is no body without any militarization. That's what we need to understand. Obviously, the UN has failed, but those are because of its mistakes, and we have the power now to make those amends, to stop vetoes, to actually make a hierarchy. Thank you.
All right, we've tried to understand number five's point, right? We understand that they're trying to say that the organization is going to have a military, right? But they're trying to say that not every single country is going to station their troops. Okay, yes, we agree. Okay, there should be an organization with military in outer space, but that military is going to be completely neutral. It's going to be for peacekeeping, right? It's going to put sanctions. It's going to put, well, anything on the country, on the, let's say, colonization too, right? It's not that we put militaries of specific countries in space. Okay, we agree that you should put military of, we should militarize not exactly private militaries, but have, a peacekeeping force with a military in outer space. Thank you.
We need to understand the fact that these militaries and these bodies that are being proposed are not viable at all. Why is that so? Because, firstly, based on past precedents, we know that the P5 are not going to agree with it, and they're going to want independent police or independent military bodies which would just safeguard their personal interests, like they've always done. Secondly, calling this entire organization a military or a neutral military would not exactly be fair. What we could instead do is have a peacekeeping body, perhaps. A peacekeeping body that would look into the interests of all countries, would still make neutral decisions, and would just stop and would just not let these countries initiate conflicts. If there, we should not even think about having a possible conflict in the solar system right now, because then again, we're doing the exact same thing that went wrong on Earth. Understand that on Earth, we have these diplomatic channels. They don't work because of nuclear weapons. They don't work because of a fear of war, right? In the solar system, we're not going to let anybody have personal anybody exist in solar system that would in the guise of, for instance, protecting and safeguarding the rights and interests of everybody, support one body or the other. Because we know that even with peacekeeping bodies, there are biases. There is not any room for biases. What if there's an entire war that starts in the solar system and then the entirety of the world just disappears? That's why it's really important for there to be demilitarization of the solar system. Thank you.
So the space should be treated as a global common, similar to the Antarctica, where resources are managed for the benefit of all humanity. This approach ensures equitable access and prevents monopolization by a few powerful entities. The OST of 1967 already recognized space as a domain for all humanity, suggesting that it should be used for peaceful purposes and benefits all countries. Allowing private ownership could lead to the exploitation of space resources without regard for long-term sustainability or environmental impact. This could result in the depletion of resources and damage celestial bodies. The rush for resources on Earth has often led to conflict and environmental damage. A similar scenario in space could have far-reaching implications for humanity. Now, I ask the delegates, what if a private company pollutes or damages space? Who's responsible? How can we trust corporations not to exploit space like they did Earth? Thank you.
Number two's plan, with all due respect, about not being concerned about such problems, such conflicts, is like jumping out of a plane without not being concerned of if you have a parachute. It's like heading into war and not being concerned if you have a gun or if it's even reloaded, right? We need to be obviously concerned. It's a possible issue and it's something to be concerned about. And while number 3 is talking about having a neutral military, right? We need to go back to number 1's point, and we need to go back to their first speech of not actually quitting OST, because even if it's a neutral body, we do need to quit the OST, because obviously it clearly states that we can't militarize space in any way, shape, or form, right? So to maintain such a body, we do need militarization, like number 3 has finally agreed, and the panel needs to be concerned about such possible outcomes, because clearly it is a pretty high chance considering the past of Earth.
Is it not possible that due to this militarization that number 5 is suggesting, there is, well, because there are mostly individuals that are funding this space exploration, do you not think it's far worse that an individual be militarized rather than an entire nation? Because a nation at least can be governed through a body. How will you manage individuals with so much power? And moreover, to this point, I would like to add the fact that you have resources in space that are quadrillions of dollars. How do we not ensure the fact that these billionaires or trillionaires are able to mine or to use these resources to their own personal gain without or with militarization? Number 2.
Firstly, again, militarization of the entirety of the solar system. Today, they're suggesting the militarization of the solar system. Tomorrow, they're going to say, okay, let us have our own independent armies in the solar system. Understand that the key stakeholders in this entire topic of space exploration and whether there should be militarization or not The key stakeholders are actually more or less individuals, and then come states. You can still hold states accountable for instance, sanctions. You can hold them accountable by initiating a possible war, even. But how are you going to hold individuals accountable if if the militarization is allowed? What if Elon Musk suddenly comes off with his own army of robots, for instance? We never know what's going to happen in the next 50 years. That's why it's imperative for us to realize that demilitarization is the only solution. Why is it the only solution? It is the only solution so that all of these resources in the solar system can be protected. As mentioned by the honorable adjudicator, there are quadrillions worth of minerals. How are we going, if, for instance, Russia, United States, and Elon Musk, these three stakeholders are in the solar system. So this quadrillion is going to be divided between these three bodies, right? These three bodies, because they'll have their armies there. No other country, no other individual will have their army there. They're going to have control over all of these resources. They have, for instance, they have all of this control, right? Who is going to stop it when the United States wants more of that share than Elon Musk, for instance? And when Elon Musk says that, hey, I don't want Russia having this much stake or control over this entire thing, they're going to lead into a war. We don't want a war. We don't want all of this quadrillion worth of resources to deplete, to just evaporate off the face of the solar system. That's not a viable solution. Hence, I would like to still push on the permission to complete sentence. I'd like to still push on the solution for demilitarization of the solar system. Thank you.
All right, let us make something very clear, right? The OSC doesn't say that you cannot militarize space as with a neutral peacekeeping force, right? When you have something, for example, let's create something up, right? You have the United Moon Warriors, right? It's a neutral organization. It's a peacekeeping organization. It has its own military, so it can impose laws onto both the colonies, colony 1 and colony 2, right? And then let's talk about US and, like, for example, Libya, right? They're not going to have their own militaries in space. They're not going to have anything in space except for the colony itself. The colony is not going to have weapons. The colony is not going to have a military. It's going to be just the United Moon Warriors, the neutral organization that is going to have the military, right? Furthermore, let's talk about the exploitation of minerals that are extracted, right? When Elon Musk comes up, or USA comes up and says that we extracted this mineral, now we want to sell it, this has been happening for the past decades, for the past centuries, right? You nowhere in the OST does it say that you cannot sell minerals that are extracted from, let's say Mars, right? Elon Musk has been selling, Elon Musk has been utilizing, let's say, extracted materials, right? There's no reason for you to say that you need military for any dispute between that exploitation of or that extraction. Thank you.
Let us help this panel visualize what we mean when we say an individual is going to go and colonize such a place on Mars. Let's take, for example, Christopher Columbus, right? He founded America. It's a new country. They formed borders. They formed laws. They formed a democracy, right? Elon Musk is basically Christopher Columbus, except it's on Mars, except it's 2020, whatever, right? We need to understand that this is not just one individual. It's not just this one individual who owns this land, because obviously that's not something that's in favor of anyone, to be fair, right? This is a new planet. We don't need to take forward whatever country we have at the moment on planet Earth. It's a new planet, and obviously Elon Musk, whatever billionaire, is going to go and form their space station, right, or their land, and they're going to occupy, they're going to use the resources. It's going to be under that new country that is formed there, and it's not really a lot different from what we already have on Earth, right? We're going to have new borders, we're going to have a new country, and obviously we need a body, we need military, we need a sort of watch body, we need some sort of body to make sure that there is no violation of any sort of law, there is no violation in any way, shape, or form, whether it's humanitarian violations or resource violations or anything related to the environment or in any way, right? And what we don't understand is why this panel is so hard stuck on keeping the OST, because it's clearly something that was made when the civil war took place, and it's been decades, and we're still hard stuck on this certain these certain rules, right? Because obviously times changed. There have been new problems since then, and it's a new sort of innovation that we're looking forward to.
Christopher Columbus colonized the America, did he not commit mass genocide? Did he not exploit resources and use them to his own benefit and for the benefit of the superior race allegedly? So the point of militarizing space and then also claiming that Elon Musk could be the Christopher Columbus of space. How would you govern that Christopher Columbus who carries out mass genocide?
Obviously, there is no black Martian on Mars that is under the influence of racism or any sort of thing that was at the time of Christopher Columbus, right? There is no such population on Mars that is going to face this genocide. And when we talk about Elon Musk being Christopher Columbus, right, this is why we need a body. This is why we need militarization, so that such genocide doesn't take place. This militarization, let's explain to this panel that militarization doesn't mean that it's going to be used for genocide. It's going to be used against genocide. We need to regulate, right? We need to regulate space, because if there is no militarization, anyone can go bring a gun and do any sort of genocide, right? And there is no way, shape, or form to protect that certain act, or there's no way to take that into accountability, right?
Colonies have been mentioned by the other side. They're proposing the creation of different colonies. Colony for the United States, colony for the Russian Federation, colony for Elon Musk even. Okay. Do we not remember that the United States of America invaded Iraq for its resources? Do we not remember that they had actually accused Iraq for weapons of mass destruction when there were none to be found? Or do we not remember that there were 800 billion worth of gold bricks that were extracted from Iraq by the United States? How are we so sure that when this entire solar system is going to be militarized and when there are going to be these divisions and these colonies, how are we so sure that the United States is not going to say, oh wait, they have gotten better stuff, they have gotten a bigger share of these resources, we're going to invade them. Hence, militarization of the solar system is not possible. We need to understand this. Also, as far as the treaty is concerned, the OST, it was created when there were two main global superpowers that could actually compete with each other, the United States of America and the former Soviet Union. Today, we live in a world where the demographics and geographics have changed. We need to have new treaties. We need to have a new treaty. But then again, that treaty should be properly abided by whichever countries sign it. These countries should have accountability mechanisms. These treaties should have accountability mechanisms, because what we have been seeing again and again since whenever the world has started is the fact that the powerful harms the poor, the rich gets richer, the poor gets poorer, and even if the poor actually gets an opportunity to improve its lives or its citizens' lives, the rich is still going to exploit it. Thank you.
I'd like to add on what number 2 and number 3 has said. We support their frameworks on demilitarizing the solar system to some extent. We believe that there should be a newly established organization, not the United Nations, not any country, not any existing organization, not Elon Musk, who is going to not Elon Musk. There should be a separate, newly established organization that is going to be the only organization that is going to be militarized, and it's going and when the countries are going to when all the countries are going to the solar system or the space, they should not have any military. They should be completely demilitarized, and the only organization that we're establishing should have military. Because if the because if the countries have the military, it's going to basically violate a lot of law. It's basically going to destroy all the minerals that are on the on moon. It's going to that are on Mars. Also, talking about what number 5 have said, that that the without the OST being broken, there can't be a body going to there can be a demilitarized body going to Mars. The OST has never stated that you can't demilitarize a organization, or you can't have a organization going to space that can actually govern the space. We believe that the OST should be continued. The OST should not be broken apart, but the OST should be renewed again, because the OST should be renewed again, because if the OST is actually revoked, the countries like USA that are already trying to take over the world are going to try to take over this space as well. So if the OST is broken, we're basically biasing towards the P5. We're basically biasing towards countries like the USA who want to conquer space, who want to conquer the world. Thank you.
Okay, so Christopher Columbus is no the Elon Musk is the Christopher Columbus of space. Okay, he's gonna go and conquer. He's gonna create a colony. Have you ever considered, if Elon Musk does go to space and create a colony, it's going to be innately it's going to be mainly US citizens? Have you ever considered that? It's going to be racism, but not with race. It's going to be racism. It's going to be, well, nationalism, right? How do you actually promise us that when Elon Musk goes to space, creates a colony, has weapons, he's not going to just have US citizens all lined up to have absolute paradise on Mars, right? How do you govern that? Thank you.
Like we reminded this panel, the United States is actually not in favor of Elon Musk to actually go and colonize Mars or whatever, right? The United States, like Donald Trump has said, is taking all of their funds off of this project in the first place. So there's nothing about Elon Musk that states that it's solely for for the citizens of United States, right? And there is no such clause. There is no such thing. It says that there's a 90% reduction in prices, right? It doesn't mention anywhere, unless I am dyslexic, there is no such mention of a favor for people from the United States. And clearly this country, this so-called country, the area on Mars, is not called the United States of America. It's probably something that Elon Musk comes up with, and it's a completely different country other than the United States.
Okay, so hold on. You talk about how the United States does not want to colonize space, does not want to colonize Mars, but that Elon Musk is a nationalist. He is a US extremist, and he is going to favor US citizens. It does not matter if Trump or anything or his father figure doesn't agree with him. He's still going to go up there, and he's still going to favor US citizens. Thank you.
I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I would like to add on what number 5 have said. How are you so sure that that Elon Musk that US not supporting Elon Musk to go to space is not actually another plot for US to divide and rule? How are you so sure that USA is not going to colonize Mars? Elon Musk lives in the United States. Elon Musk's all the organizations, all the stuff Elon Musk owns is in the United States. So, and it has also benefited the United States a lot. How are you so sure that if Elon Musk goes on Mars, creates a colony, how are you sure that he's not going to have majority of people from the United States over there? And how are you so sure that the United States and Elon Musk are not in a secret collaboration to actually have a majority of the United States citizens in Mars? So what we'd like to say is, if Elon Musk even goes to Mars, and even if the United States doesn't support Elon Musk going to Mars, and if the US comes up and says that we do not want to colonize Mars, we do not support what Elon Musk is doing. If even Elon Musk goes and controls the space, the US is still going to colonize Mars, because whatever US has said in the past, they have never said. US is known for its hypocrisy. Thank you.
With that, the panel has been concluded. You will now give your closing speeches, each of which will be of 2 minutes. You are advised to stay within the time limits. We will begin with number one.
Honorable judges, we have crossed continents to build civilizations, but now we face the edge of eternity space, the final frontier. It is not just above us, it is within our reach. But the question remains, who will it belong to? If we privatize space, we don't explore it, we don't protect it, we exploit it. They will argue private companies innovate, but innovation without ethics is just greed, a spacesuit. The moon doesn't need a billboard, Mars doesn't need a trademark, the stars don't need a price tag. We polluted oceans, chopped down forests, drew borders on the map, and called it a progress. And now we want to bring that same system to the stars. The Outer Space Treaty, signed by over 100 nations, forbid ownership, because some places must remain sacred, like Antarctica, like the deep sea, like the soul of humanity itself. It was not Apple, Amazon, or Tesla that showed us the Saturn's ring. If it was not a private startup that captured the deepest image of the cosmos. It was James Webb, launched by the people for the people of Earth. Carl Sagan once said, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way of the universe to know itself." And I ask you, do we now sell that knowing? Do we pretend the sky? We are the first generation to reach beyond the earth, and maybe the last with a choice. Will we protect the stars or divide them like land? Will we share knowledge or hoard resources? I say this clearly, the sky is not for sale, the moon is not merchandise, the universe is not a business venture. It is a gift to be studied, not stolen. I do not stand against privatization, I stand against privatized conquest, and I ask you judges, when the next generation looks up, will they see stars or ownership papers?
I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable adjudicators, ambition has never been a bad thing. But ambition with justness and with fairness is a great thing as well, right? You want to explore the space, but we say, let's explore it together. Because the stars, if they belong to anyone, they belong to everyone. If everything that the other side has proposed goes into action, then very soon we'll be losing full control and full authority over the solar system and over its governance. We won't be able to govern it properly. There would be wars. Nobody would be able to actually take out the resources. That's why, in my closing speech, I'd like to reaffirm the fact that militarization is never going to be a solution, that exploitation and colonizing the solar system is just a very bizarre idea, because in the end there are only going to be 3 or 5 key stakeholders who are going to have this entire control over the solar system. And when you talk about developing nations like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all of these countries, they're going to be not heard of in this context. Because why? Because they're poor, they're not able to initiate the solution. If there is ever to be a body formed, we'd like for that body to actually take in account everybody and all of the countries and their opinions into account. We don't just want the United States of America having another colony in the solar system. We do not want the Russian Federation to be bombing the solar system just because they want to exploit coal and gas for their geopolitical interests. We don't want that. We want a fair and just equal opportunity for everybody to explore space. Why do we want that? We want that so that these resources can be fairly equally divided within all of the citizens of the world, and so that it can all be used for the better and for the global good of the entirety of the world. Thank you.
Alright, I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. let's sum it all up, right? We don't want privatization in space. We don't want Elon Musk to go up there and sell asteroids like their NFTs, right? Moving on, we don't want there to be militarization, but to an extent. How do we create a colony that's neutral and that's not owned by a specific state, right? We want to have a central, a neutral, a peacekeeping force, an organization that we've named the United Moon Warriors, right? We want this organization to have its own army. We want them to have a military, not to impose genocide on someone, but we wanted to impose laws, right? We want to avoid that gunfight that's going to be happening in Colony 1 by using laws, by using prison that's going to be implemented by this specific organization, right? And furthermore, discussing the government of this specific colony, of these colonies. Actually, we have decided to create a socialist government, right? We want everybody to have the same stuff. We want Pakistan to own a let's say mountain range, and we want USA to own a crater, right? We want them to be in this colony together but not have a specific colony to their name, right? We want USA to partake in this, and we want Pakistan to partake in this organization as much as they can, to their extent, to their ratio, right? And we want that organization to create a colony in space, not a specific state or an individual. So Elon Musk isn't going to be creating his own 1 million people colony. It's going to be created under the United Moons Warriors, right? Thank you.
My speech starts in 3, 2, 1. We believe that the only conclusion to this is communism on moon. We do not want the moon to be bombed. We do not want the Mars to be bombed. We do not want the solar system to be bombed. We do not want the space to be bombed. So we believe that we believe the OST should not be broken at all. It should be actually renewed, and there should be the countries should be allowed to go to space, but the countries should be completely demilitarized. There should be another organization that the number 3 has said. It could be the United Moon Warriors, that is going to go on in space and it's going to be the only organization that is going to be militarized, and there will be no other country, no other organization, no other billionaire having a organization that is going to be militarized. If we believe that the countries like Pakistan, the poor countries who are not who are not a part of the space program, or a part of the space, or part of the space, should also be a part of the space program. They should be given equal rights to go to space. They should be given equal funds to go to space. If and wh- when in space, if some selfish billionaire, not specifically targeting Elon Musk, wants to sell goods, or wants to sell the minerals that are on moon, that are on Mars, they should actually ask for permission from the organization that is established on space, and they should pay for the minerals that they're actually selling. We also believe that we also want to establish communism over capitalism on moon. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, we need to understand that propaganda, fears, or worries are not facts, and it definitely never supported innovation, especially when it comes to laser beams, Jedi warriors, or some moon warrior. Delegates, we need to understand that militarization, though it sounds like a scary word, is necessary for a body to be developed, and a body is necessary to be developed because we need to actually protect these lands. We need to ensure that no violation is made, and hence we need to quit OST. We shouldn't be stuck in 1967 when we've clearly moved on, right? There is no genocide that's going to take place when Elon Musk is going to go and settle his colony there. Elon Musk has his own funds. It's nothing related to United States. So moving forward with this matter, moving forward on this matter with propaganda, with random fears related to laser beams, it's clearly not gonna go in favor of innovation, especially when it comes to such a matter. And what we need to understand is that this is all for human progress, right? If we're gonna, let's say, take one body that's unanimous, right? We're gonna go forward, take out a certain amount of resources. What's gonna happen? The moon warriors are gonna get vetoed. This These resources that were supposedly meant for everyone is gonna get vetoed. If Pakistan gets a mountain on Mars, it definitely doesn't have any resources to go and actually take out those resources to begin with. So obviously we need that money that Elon Musk has. We obviously need proper technology to actually make a colonization on Mars, delegates. Let's understand that Mars's environment doesn't actually have any oxygen on it. There is no source of water. So we need that technology that Elon Musk has. We can't just tell Pakistan to go and grab a mountain there and start taking our resources, or we can't just tell some Jedi warrior to go and prove some magic there and like start shooting laser beams, delegates. We need to actually talk about facts, not propagandas.
With that, this debate has been concluded. I thank you all for participating. Many points were raised that were backed by good evidence and reasoning. Dr. Hudbe, do you have any comments?
सर ये वाला रखिए. Instead of a debate where people just endlessly exercise their debating skills, the black hole decided that it would give you a topic and a set of questions which would test your reasoning skills and your ability to make moral judgments on an issue that is very much up there and will occupy our minds for the foreseeable future. The participants, all you speakers, were very thoughtful, did address this very vital question, and so I'm happy that you took part and raised the level of debate at the black hole. I'm hopeful that you'll come again. But let me just say that this whole issue needs to be looked at in the framework of history. So if we go back to Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, where he talks about self-interest of an individual, self-interest actually moving the interest of society forward. Well, he was the foremost proponent of capitalism, and he says that if individuals work for their own personal good, they will end up benefiting society as a whole. Now, that has to be taken with a pinch of salt. It is true that self-interest can fuel progress, which you seem very concerned about, but at the same time, it could lead to deprivation, and often has led to deprivation of others. I think in resolving an issue of this nature, of who should own space, this is no different from who should own the oceans, who should own the atmosphere, who should own the commons. And here, I think we must look at evolutionary biology, which has taught us that of all the species that have been created, that have evolved over the last 4 billion years, we humans have been the most successful. Why? Because, yes, we do compete with each other. There's the food over there, you want it, I want it, we'll compete for that. But on the other hand, we also cooperate with each other. And if you think of these two as being polar opposites, it's the balance which we humans as a whole have managed to set, which has led to humans outdistancing all the other species by a huge, huge margin. The fact that you and I can actually agree on things and agree to help each other is more important than the fact that we actually compete with each other also. I mean, just think about what it takes to make, let's say, an, uh, an aeroplane. It has something like 50,000 parts. Each part has to be made in some factory. That factory is made by 100, 500 people. The fact that millions of people need to cooperate to create a car, a telephone, one of your smartphones will need 10 million people. All this shows that it is our ability to cooperate which has led to our success. And so, as we reach out into space or elsewhere, that has to be kept in mind. There are going to be predators like Elon Musk, men like Donald Trump, who care for nothing except their own narrow selves. They, if, if they were allowed to have total control, humanity would cease to exist. Because they have only one interest in mind, which is their own personal self-interest. Of course, they have all the wealth. They're worth tens or hundreds of billions of dollars each. But the greed to have more is what drives them. And that greed, we have seen in the past, has led to wars and enormous destruction, which is why these instincts must be controlled, and they can only be controlled by those who believe in the power of cooperation, of living together. They must win, they must defeat people like these and create a society, a world of cooperation. And in that, so now that we're talking about nations, in that each of us has to become a global citizen and say that my loyalty is not to my country, not to my religion, not to my friends, it is only to humanity. And it's when we become global citizens, then we'll be able to solve this problem of space privatization. So, good. I think we've had a substantive discussion. And what comes after this is up to you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Woodward. And thank you to all the participants. Your debate has formally been ended. You may be seated back into the audience chairs. The next debate will begin at 1 p.m. sharp. Till then, there is a break. Thank you.